With the success of games such as Maniac Mansion and its follow-up Day of a Tentacle, as well as the Monkey Island series, LucasArts wanted to try something different, while sticking to the design approach of avoiding the possibility of dead ends or the player characters dying. Steve Purcell, who had a key role in the animation of the company's previous games, started a comic series in 1987 featuring an anthropomorphic dog and a rabbit, who solve unusual cases. This seemed like the right sort of premise for another potential point-and-click adventure game classic, which ended up being the 1993 game Sam & Max Hit the Road. The first scene of the game sees Sam and Max finishing off a case, and it's here we get a good indication of who these characters are. They then receive a phone call about a nearby carnival star attraction of a Bigfoot or Sasquatch gone missing, and it is up to them, and by them I mean the player, to solve this cartoony mystery. They visit a variety of Americana tourist sites, solve puzzles and talk to characters. Much like the Maniac Mansion or Monkey Island games, this game is light-hearted and humorous, though it feels different to before with an emphasis on dry wit, thanks to the dog Sam.
Well, this is undignified.
Breaking the fourth wall.
I wish this game were over.
Absurd and sometimes dark humor about pop culture and existentialism.
I can't help thinking that we foolishly tampered with the fragile inner mechanisms of this little spaceship we call Earth.
Not to mention the Rabbit Max's antisocial tendencies for slapstick violence. Those who liked games like Day of a Tentacle may not necessarily find the dry humor appealing, but there's no denying the game is funny, especially with the questions, declarations, exclamations and non sequiturs during conversations that don't necessarily progress the story or solve puzzles. The pairing of the title characters' characterizations also works extremely well. The presentation is nice too, with the colours and animation being similar to previous LucasArts games, while still retaining the art style of the comics. There are also some moments where it almost looks 3D. The sound is excellent, featuring full voice talent for the characters and a variety of tunes that are well composed for each moment and environment, especially the jazzy undertones for the world's largest ball of twine. Yeah, that's one of the places, plus there's a frog rock that doesn't look like a frog and a mystery vortex. Okay, going off tangent here. In regards to the unique and oftentimes bizarre characters, settings and dialogue, the gameplay is exceptional, although not perfect. The difficulty of puzzles ranges from pretty simple to extremely difficult. Some of the solutions are illogical or far-fetched due to the cartoon setting. The game thankfully retains the design approach from previous games where the need to restart the adventure is avoided due to the lack of dead ends or characters not dying. However, there'll be many "I can't do that" moments.
I can't use these things together.
With the concept of combining items in your inventory being more prevalent than before. Make sure you pick up any item you can, they may be useful later on. The interface is also somewhat different to before, despite being run on the familiar Scum engine. You only control the dog Sam, with Max mostly moving around of his own accord. You can also talk to that rabbit, as well as use him to solve puzzles, again with slapstick violence. You can still use hotkeys, such as P for pickup, as well as cycle through the various actions with the right mouse button. Conversation choices no longer feature lines of dialogue and are replaced with icons, including question marks and pictures of characters or objects, deliberately affecting how a joke is told or timed. The inventory is also not on the main screen, but in an icon in the corner. What is also really cool is how you use Sam and Max's police car to travel to the different settings, and you find more settings to visit after having found more puzzles, items and conversation pieces. This interface was different for the purpose of drawing the environments, as well as making interaction quicker, but it can be occasionally hard to tell what or who you can interact with and in what ways, not to mention where you can walk to. This is the hunt for pixel aspect that many adventure games struggled with, and the fact that it feels a little more backwards here is a disappointment, considering the intention to make the game more advanced than other adventure games of its kind. The manual and hint book that come with the game can help you out, plus it features pictures, comic strips and jokes, which are nice to look at if you haven't read the comic strips the game is based on. And there are a few mini-games to play if you want to take a break from the head-scratching puzzles, but aside from those that are integral to solving a puzzle, they're not really worth your time. Sam and Max Hit the Road is slightly lacking in the logic and focus and unity that the previous adventure games by LucasArts seem to have down pat. However, this doesn't bring down the ambitions of Steve Purcell and the development team to bring the comics of the dog and rabbit duo being freelance police to life. The production values are as charming as they should be, the gameplay can be quite fun to play around with, even with the far-fetched puzzles, and the story is simple yet bizarrely compelling and contains more than a few laughs. It's no wonder this game got high praise, not to mention more comics, a TV series, and a series of episodic adventure games, with the latter taking years to come out, which must have been an agonizing wait for fans. Non-gamers/first-time gamers should enjoy this easy-to-control game, where you can't die or get stuck, although they may want to look up the hints or solutions for the puzzles. Try not to do it often. You may be surprised at how short the game can be if you do. GOG or Good Old Games is your place to go if you want to try out this game. And why wouldn't you? The freelance police need your help, and that Bunny Max can only hope the case involves
wanton destruction
and a
fiercely thickening plot.